Welcome to our webinar, Transliteration of Business Partner. What we are talking about today, digitalization and globalization are advancing. Even though we currently have a trend to local, our trade and exchange of data will increase more and more, and our employees and business partners are spread all over the world. Data need to be exchanged, checked, and it needs to be available in different languages and character scripts. In addition, there are more and more business partner transactions that require third parties to be checked in Italy. This has occurred automatically on the fly. My name is Bernd Knobel, Managing Director from Quanta Solutions, and with me today is Isabella Muson, SAP Translation Expert, Alexander Davidenkov from SAP Globalization Services, and Christian Schuster, Data Scientist and Language Expert. Before we get started, a few words about the meeting today. We are recording the webinar without questions and chats. If you have questions, please use the chat functionality from Zoom or send us an email. The lines are all muted. We try to answer all questions at the end of the meeting. If we need too much time, we will answer the questions after the webinar via email. The webinar is recorded without that questions, and you will get a link to that recording, and we will as well place that webinar on YouTube. So let us directly start, and we will explain a few terms. What is meant by transliteration, and how does it differ from translation? For non-linguists, the distinction may not be as easy to understand. For these questions, Isabella is the best person to ask. Hello, Isabella.
Hello, everybody. I'd also like to welcome you to our online event. So I'd like first to explain the different terms we are using. What does transliteration mean? Transliteration is the conversion of letters or words into corresponding characters of another language. With transliteration, we try to reproduce a source language in the writing system of a target language. When we talk about transliteration from languages such as Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, or Russian into Western European languages, we speak about romanization. Transliteration is simply the phonetic conversion of characters into another script, whereas translation is the transfer of meaning. In some cases, however, translation or transliteration only or a mix of both is not enough, since some products, company names, or brands have their own version in a particular country. With these names, transliteration or translation would simply not work. To find the right equivalent in the target language, we need then to search through external data or scrape the internet or access some local company registers. That's what we call data sourcing. So, transliteration only is not always the most appropriate approach, especially in case of company names. A smart combination of transliteration, translation, and data sourcing makes the difference, and that's exactly what we are offering with our tool.
Thank you, Isabella. Why is it so important to distinguish between translation and transliteration and data sourcing? I turn here to Christian, data scientist and our expert for Far Eastern languages.
Thank you, Bernd. For example, the plain translation and transliteration of this Taiwanese company you can see here, Zicheng Yanhe Kuaiti would be Zicheng transliteration and then United Accounting Firm as a translation, and not PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is in Taiwan the branch office for this famous accounting company. We only can get this through external data sourcing. Another example would be the word in Chinese lin, which can be transliterated as lin or translated as forest. If you have to deal with a personal name, the word lin should not be translated, but only transliterated. Just figure out what would happen if you would address Mr. Lin as Mr. Forest. However, if the term forest appears in a text dealing with plants, this word should probably be translated. As another example, we have this Japanese company, Takeshita Kensetsu. Kensetsu means construction in the Romanized version. It is then Takeshita Construction, with Takeshita as a transliteration and Kensetsu the translation for construction, yes.
Okay, Christian, I understand. And there is simply no one-to-one mapping between languages.
Yes, right. There is no mapping. There are sounds that have identical or similar equivalents in the source and target language, but some differences are lost in transliteration when sounds in the source language have no equivalent in the target language. And unfortunately, this is often the case. This means that transliteration can never be a 100% accurate transfer of sounds from a source language to a target language. And if two languages are very far apart, such as English and Japanese, for example, the mapping of the sounds will be quite complex. So I think, Christian, as a language expert for Asian languages, you can certainly help us with examples.
Sure. So for some languages, there are many different official and unofficial existing variants for transliteration. We have different transliteration variants, whereby transliteration are script dependent, as well as different transcription variants, which are more language dependent. For example, Wikipedia lists 13 different transliteration variants for Russian, and but only 4 of them are really used and are the most important ones. Depending on the use case, you can choose between different variants. You often have different results if one variant was used in the past, you have to be aware of, but then suddenly it was replaced by another one. Often, however, the old variant continues to be used. Let's take, for example, here the former German province in China, Qingdao, which is best known for its beer. The old Ray Childs romanization system is Tsingtao with a T, which is still used today, but the new Pinyin variant would be Qingdao with a Q, which looks like a different word, but it's still the same word. Other examples include the Land of the Rising Sun for Japan, Ryuban, or Nihon. Japan, we use today in English, is just an old transliteration for Nihon, Nippon, how it's called in Japan. Yes, and also for Hong Kong, it's the same. Hong Kong is just an old transliteration of the Cantonese word, and today today's version is Xianggang in Pinyin.
Okay, great, Christian. So I understand there are simply no standards when transliterating from one language to another, right?
Yes, so most languages have different standards for romanization, as we discussed. There are many official as well as unofficial variants. Most of them depend on the different use cases. For example, in Russian, there's one variant for street names. There's an ISO variant used outside of Russia that tries to cover all Cyrillic-based languages like Russian, Bulgarian, or also Macedonian. Then there's the Ghost standard, which is used within Russia. And yes, just some languages like Chinese are easier, as there's only one official variant, Pinyin. But then there are languages like Thai, where there is no widely used proper official version to date, which makes our job very difficult.
Mhm. I see. And there are some additional challenges, like, for example, the segmentation of words. This means to recognize spaces between words. And for many languages, this is not a trivial issue at all, I think.
Yes, so just to give some examples, each language has its own challenges in romanization. For example, Asian languages, we need to work on segmentation because in the original script, everything is written together. Then here for Hebrew, Arabic, these languages are written from right to left, and often they omit vocals and vowels. Then another example on the next slide. We have, as we talked before, we have different standards which just apply for different use cases. Then we have inflections as a different another example mostly for European languages, which makes it harder to populate and fill a dictionary. And then there are transpositions of particles for many Asian languages. As the last example on the next slide, you can see that in Chinese, for example, particles are written behind a number, but in Latin we have to put it mostly before. For company names, the best solution would be an international Latin version or English version in the trade registers of each country. But since there is, for example, no Japanese or Chinese trade register, including the international Latin version of each company, converting a company name or an address into Latin characters leaves much room for many different Latinization variants. This makes it difficult, for example, to check sanction lists, especially in the case of monolingual sanction lists, as it's the case with the OFAC sanction list.
Christian, thanks. And Isabella, for which data is the pure transliteration useful? And when does a mixture of transliteration and translation make sense?
Yes, great question. Yes, for business partner master data, proper names have to be transliterated, and names of organizations are partly transliterated, partly translated, and partly data sourced. And this means that the data mostly has to be retrieved from other sources of information like the internet or official company directories, if any, etc.
Alexander, maybe you can tell us a bit about the typical SAP customer requirements for transliteration from the SAP point of view. I know that we have many years of experience in that area. So I'm very happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, hello, and thank you, Bernd and the Quanto team so much for the invitation. My name is Alexander Davidenko. I work at SAP Globalization Services for many years in the product management in the internationalization called I18N area and have been dealing with many global customers worldwide. However, let me begin with some interesting history. This year, 2022, SAP celebrates its 50th anniversary. You might have read numerous articles in the press about it. And famous persons and politicians like Olaf Scholz and Winfried Kretschmann congratulated personally during a gala event and many more events. But there is a further remarkable historical date and birthday in 2022 for SAP, namely 30 years of the product SAP R3, the first product which can be seen as a launch for the big number of SAP products in the ERP world, which are available today, both in on-premise, private cloud, and public cloud. And from the first day on R3, the language translation into Japanese was provided. It was a clear requirement at that time that SAP R3 shall be available in Japan and many more countries. So with this complicated Japanese language script, like kanji, hiragana, and katakana script, there were a lot of technical challenges to support this complicated script technically, such as the correct fonts for display and input methods. Yeah, at the time the Unicode standard did not yet exist, so it was really a lot of tricky things to do for this case. In the following years after that, more languages with non-Latin script were added, such as simplified and traditional Chinese, Korean, Thai, and also languages with right to left writing direction, and a couple of other languages more, which are using a non-Latin representation and character sets. And since the Unicode technology was available beginning of the 2000s, it was technically, of course, easier. And before that, these Asian languages were called double byte languages because we had to use 2 bytes per character. So then with the increase of the global business and trading in that time, the world grew more and more together. So many multinational companies implemented and rolled out global SAP solution to multiple countries and needed to support their solutions in multiple languages and script for their applications and data. In particular, the handling of master data in different scripts became a major requirement, namely the transliteration of this data. So this issue came up, and we can say that the transliteration of master data in non-Latin writing systems exists already a very long time in various SAP products. And we will explain this first using the example of address versions of customers, suppliers, business partners in SAP S/4HANA or SAP ERP. How does it work? Every multinational company dealing with countries with non-Latin writing systems, for example in China, has to create their business partners in the original or local script and address on the one hand because of legal requirements or business practices in the country for compliance reasons. And on the other hand, it also needs a second version, namely the name and address in the right format and layout of the same business partners in a Latin or English script version to enable international business in the form of, let's say, globally readable master data, if you want to say so. This is currently done manually and can be very time-consuming when you have many thousands of business partners. In addition, both versions must always be complete and consistent. So if you change the original script, the local script, you have also to adjust the Latin script. Yeah? In the past, this has led to numerous requests and the desire to automate the transliteration of address versions efficiently and accurately as possible, and as accurate as possible. This is the reason why we have launched this co-innovation project. SAP Globalization Services has therefore started a partnership with Quanto Solutions to develop an efficient, flexible, and universally applicable app on the SAP Business Technology Cloud Platform called BTP, which we are showing you today. The Quanto Transliteration Center solution, QTC, is available in the SAP Store and meets all modern requirements and standards of the latest cloud technology, efficiency, integrability, performance, security, and of course, data protection. Another issue, which is quite crucial now and came up in the, we can say, in recent years, but in particular also recent months, because of the geopolitical developments in our world, are the different new compliance, embargo, and sanction regulations of the international world community, which require careful examination of legal business transactions worldwide. For example, you have to check quickly, efficiently, and with high accuracy if a new business partner is to be found on an international sanction list in order to immediately block possible transactions in such a case. The big problem with this is that official sanction lists are often in Latin script only, so that business partners in countries with a non-Latin writing system have first to be, let's say, the word converted, that is transliterated and translated where necessary, maybe data sourcing to check it against some directories, so that at the end, a Latin representation as part of the search and validation can be used against the sanction list. Similar to the address version, this process is currently done manually very often and must, of course, first take place before the real sanction check can be done. So it is very time-consuming and can be considerably more expensive than a machine-based check. These two application examples, and there are many more, show the importance and relevance of this topic and have led to successful co-innovation projects between SAP and Quanto Solutions. But now it is really time to introduce and show the QTC app in detail. I'm really looking forward to your QTC examples in demo. So Bernd, can you first tell us something about the SAP integration technology and architecture of QTC?
Alexander, thank you. And I'm really happy to show you QTC today directly in our system. We will directly start in our S4 HANA system, creating a business partners and directly start the transliteration with QTC. And then later on, we will see that step by step, as well have a look on QTC, which runs on the SAP Business Technology Platform. And then we can have a deeper look in the architecture and in the services we are using. So let's start. Okay, we are here in our SAP S4 system in the transaction to enter or to change a business partner. We have already entered some Chinese information. And when we now press save, QTC get involved and we send that information to QTC, get it back, and directly have in the international address version now two possibilities, the original Chinese and the international one, which is the result from QTC. You see that works really fast, and you can integrate QTC directly in the process of creating or entering business partners. If we want now to see that step by step and a little bit deeper, then we call the transaction for QTC, and we post one or several business partners to QTC. We see here in the protocol that we posted one business partners with that Chinese script. And if we go back and call the transaction for get, then we get these business partners back. And now we have two versions, the original, which we send to QTC, and the transliterated, which we get back. And now that would be as well in the international address version. So that is the process if you want to transliterate one or several business partners, that could be 10 or 100 or 1,000. And QTC does the job according to the configuration, and you get that information directly back to your SAP system, and that works with SAP S4 or R3, and as well with master data governance in the next step, or SAP Ariba. Now we can have a look on the front end of QTC. We see here the jobs where QTC was involved, and when we want to have a look at that job, then we see which services are used and which services have been configured. For example, for first name, we see that we have integrated the global as conversion method. We see that we have integrated the global translation memory. We have as well a customer dictionary, and we have the transliteration framework. And here for the first name or for the last name, the transliteration framework, which we have configured and implemented, we have used. For example, for the house number, we see that we have used the global translation memory. And the reason for that is that we get in that house number field and combine that information with the number as 271, and as well the characters for a number. That is often the case in Chinese or Asian languages, and QTC is able to split that information, bring it in the right order, so that we have in the international version number 271. The services which could be used as well as the order of the services, that is in the configuration. We see that in the configuration, and we see here for different SAP systems, for different processes you want to make. For example, here for Vorname, Nachname, also data type, first name, last name, the services which are active. Here, in that case, that would be dictionary, global, and custom, and as well transliteration. There could be as well other services, for example, Google Translation, or your own services, and as well the order of the services could be changed. With the edit functionality, that is possible to enter. So you have here in the front end of QTC the possibility to see what QTC has done. You are able to do configurations to adjust it to your data model, besides the possibilities for user management and for your account management to get authorities and so on. That is the front end of QTC. Thank you. When we can go back once to SAP, because QTC is not only able to do that transliteration for a business partner with only one address. There could be in your system business partners with several addresses, or the business partners can be in several roles. Here we have, for example, a business partner with two addresses, and if we post that to QTC, we get it back in the same manner, and we have two transliterated versions. So you could use QTC for business partners with one or more addresses, or for business partners which you have in one role or in several.
Okay, great, Bernd. Many thanks for this demo. And just a question, which QTC services have been used here?
Isabella, thanks for sure. We can directly have a look in the architecture. You see here of the customer side, you can integrate several systems. We have seen that with SAP S4, R3 is as well possible. SAP Ariba is possible. Other systems you use, or you could use QTC out directly via the front end. We have not discussed it, but it's possible. On the QTC side, we have our RESTful API. We have the front end. Deeper in QTC, we have the services. You can configure and can use that. It's the customer, that's your customer translation memory, where you could add words or important expressions for you. That's our global transliteration memory, which is used or which is pre-filled from us, and will be added as well. There could be integrated other services, for example, Google, Baidu, or local translation services as well, several. There could be as well configured SAP Translation Hub, which is for some scenarios absolutely useful. And then most important, there's our QTC transliteration framework based on ICU, whereas the complete logic included, especially if you get the information not in separated data fields, and it's more in one big string, then there is a lot of logic to manage that. And on the configuration side, you will see there are the different data types, company name, personal name, and so on. And then there are different dictionaries, customer dictionary, global dictionary, different kind of translation machines could be integrated. And then the ICU framework could be integrated, which we have seen, transliteration or no transliteration. There are the important information about QTC from the configuration side and from the front-end side, where you can see and manage your transliterations one by one, or if you use QTC for a mass bulk with 100 or 1,000 data sets, then it's important to manage that and to track that and to see that everything works. Okay.
Okay, Ben, maybe you can now give us a glimpse into the future. What are you planning with QTC?
Absolutely, Isabella. Thank you. We published the QTC last year in the summer on the SAP App Store, and we have been really happy that we created that functionality and that it worked very performant, and that we could have really performant transliterations in good quality. We increased the functionality in the last year for other data models besides SAP R3 or S4, for example, for Ariba or for SAP Master Data Governance, and for data models where we have not every information in a special field, where it's more integrated, and then the complexity increases very much. As well, we have increased the functionality to integrate other services. We have a lot of possibilities now to increase services, and that you can configure which kind of services will be used. And for the next time, on our list is the integration, for example, to other solutions like CAT tools, where QTC could bring really an advantage in that kind of automated transliteration for business partners, as well for more languages, and as well for integration to the SAP Business Partner screening, where we have the good functionality from the SAP solution, and where QTC could really bring an added value, because the lists are mostly in Latin letters, and you have a lot of business partners which you want to screen there originally in not Latin letters. So that is an absolute good possibility for QTC to bring a big benefit. More languages, more sophisticated logic mostly for that integrated information of floor, house number, street, and so on, where we have where we get it in strings. So we have a lot of possibilities to raise the quality and to offer you the best solution in the marketplace.
Great. Thank you, Bernd.
We spent more time today for our meeting than we expected. Sorry for that. So I guess it's better if we answer your questions later via email. You will find all information to contact us in the email we sent you. You can contact us via info@quantosolutions.de, or please visit our website. We have an own transliteration part in German and English language. Or have a look at the Substore. QTC is there available. You can search for QTC or Quanto Transliteration Service, and there is as well the possibility to request a free trial of QTC. We will be at the DSAG Jahreskonferenz 22 in Leipzig. So if you join the conference, please let us meet there at our booth. We would happy to see you there and to discuss your interest and possibilities with our QTC solution. Thank you very much for your time and for your interest today. All the best for you. Thank you.